Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana
Yashodanandana
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Jaya Radha Madhava. Anyar Apyanga Karhachit Atishta Jagatam Vandyam Tadvishno Paramam Padam Nashtitam Te Pritibir Anyar Apyanga Karhachit Atishta Jagatam Vandyam Tadvishno Paramam Padam Nashtitam Te Pritibir Anyar Apyanga Karhachit Atishta Jagatam Vandyam Tadvishno Paramam Padam. Please chant. Can you get a Bhagavad Gita, please? like to chant? Thanks. Okay. Word by word translation. Nastitam, never achieved. Te, your pratibir, by forefathers. Anyayi, by others. Api, even. Anga, O Dhruva. Karhichit, at any time. Atishtita, please come and live there. Jagatam, by the inhabitants of the universe. Vandyam, worshipable. Tat, that. Vishnoho, of Lord Vishnu. Paramam, supreme. Padam, situation. Translation. Dear King Dhruva, neither your forefathers nor anyone else before you ever achieved such a transcendental planet. The planet known as Vishnu Loka, where Lord Vishnu personally resides, is the highest of all. It is worshipable by the inhabitants of all other planets within the universe. Please come with us and live there eternally. Purport. When Dhruva Maharaj went to perform austerities, he was very determined to achieve a post never dreamed of by his forefathers. His father was Uttanapada, his grandfather was Manu, and his great-grandfather was Lord Brahma. So Dhruva wanted a kingdom even greater than Lord Brahma could achieve, and he requested Narada Muni to give him facility for achieving it. The associates of Lord Vishnu reminded him that not only his forefathers, but everyone else before him was unable to attain Vishnu Loka, the planet where Lord Vishnu resides. This is because everyone within this material world is either a karmi, a jnani, or a yogi, but there are hardly any pure devotees. The transcendental planet known as Vishnu Loka is especially meant for devotees, not for karmis, jnanis, or yogis. Great rishis or demigods can hardly approach Brahma Loka, and as stated in Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Loka is not a permanent residence. Lord Brahma's duration of life is so long that it is difficult to estimate even the duration of one day in his life. And yet Lord Brahma also dies, as do the residents of his planet. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, text 16 says, Brahma bhuvana loka punar arvitu arjuna. Except for those who go to Vishnu Loka, everyone is subjected to the four principles of material life, namely birth, death, old age, and disease. The Lord says, Yad gatva na nivartante tadama paramamama. The planet from which once going, no one returns, is my supreme abode. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, text 6. Dhruva Maharaj was reminded, you are going in our company to that planet from which no one returns to this material world. Material scientists are attempting to go to the moon and other planets, but they cannot imagine going to the topmost planet, Brahmaloka, for it is beyond their imagination. By material calculation, traveling at the speed of light, it would take 40,000 light years to reach the topmost planet. By mechanical processes, we are unable to reach the topmost planet of this universe. But the process called Bhakti Yoga, as executed by Maharaj Dhruva, can give one the facility not only to reach other planets within this universe, but also to reach beyond this universe to the Vaikuntha planets. We have outlined this in our small booklet, Easy Journey to Other Planets. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshulanvaditam Vina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Kam Karidavachalam Pangam Nangayate Gidim Yatkripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurundin Taranam Vancha Kaplibishcha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I'll read the translation again. Dear King Dhruva, neither your forefathers nor anyone else before you ever achieved such a transcendental planet. The planet known as Vishnu Loka, where Lord Vishnu personally resides, is the highest of all. It is worshipable by the inhabitants of all their planets within the universe. Please come with us and live there eternally. Apparently, Tirtha Maharaj, he said he read some article somewhat recently and said that, when people think about living eternally, at least within this material world, that the idea that, okay, we could come to a point where everyone in this material world, by science or whatever, can continue to live. So the article was saying that, okay, if that was a possibility, then the next question that arises in people's minds is, what about the idea of becoming bored? So that's what came up, that even if they were able to live for so long within this world, it'd be a problem of boredom. I mean, even nowadays, yeah, they'll die of boredom. They won't die, but they'll die of boredom. So even nowadays, it's an issue, boredom. Usually devotees don't have any problems with that. Boredom. They may have other problems. Boredom usually is not a problem. Since I joined temple, I've never been bored. There's always things to do. But as the material world and specifically modern society, everything's so geared towards sense gratification, instant gratification, that people, because of gratifying their senses so much, they're just burning themselves out, and they come to a point of just boredom. And as one philosopher, I'm not sure who it was, one devotee was quoting, one devotee wrote an article about boredom, but one philosopher was saying that boredom is the root of all evil, which is an interesting point because, again, people, they're burning their senses out, and then eventually the sense gratification has to become more intense, and they're getting bored with the ordinary, you could say, sense gratification. So therefore, they do more and more, degraded, vulgar things. Just like, for example, when a person fasts, when a person is fasting, you don't eat for a day, or you don't drink for a day, and then the next day when you break your fast, or in the evening when you break your fast, it's quite an experience. The taste and the experience is quite an experience. So I'm relating this to this idea of people just gratifying their senses, that eventually their senses become dull, and they need more and more and more and more and more. So, within Krishna consciousness, this idea of living eternally, it's not that when we go to the spiritual world that we will be bored. We won't be bored. There, it's an ever-increasing ocean of transcendental activity, transcendental bliss, transcendental knowledge, and one never becomes bored. I mean, even within our practice of Krishna consciousness within this world, we're not becoming bored. Or at least we shouldn't be becoming bored. And even people who you could say are not on some super high levels of, love of God and this and that, they're not even becoming bored. It's, you could say, the beginning of devotional service. They're not becoming bored. So in other words, it becomes more and more and more and more and more enthralling, inspiring Krishna consciousness. And in relation to that, Prabhupada quotes 2 verses within this purport. 8:16 from the Bhagavad Gita. So I'll just read the English. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. So yeah, wherever we go, we may go here, we may go there in this world, or in the higher planets or lower planets, wherever it is. There's the factor of time, which means also death. So it's a place of death, Martya Loka, and also place of misery. This is what Krishna's saying. So don't get mad at me. And some people, they actually have an issue with this. They say, oh well, why is Krishna saying this? And they don't believe it, and they have an issue with it. There were some devotees here in the SanDiego temple. They left, and they're out doing whatever they're doing. But yeah, both of them they were saying, oh, why is what? They didn't like that Prabhupada would stress it all the time. Oh, it's a place of suffering. It's a place of suffering. And interesting enough is that you could say that's not too far-fetched to become angry with that conception. It's not too hard to believe or too hard to accept that someone become angry by that conception. And why is that? Because if one doesn't apply themselves to Krishna consciousness properly in the bona fide, authentic, authorized path that is chalked out by the Acharyas, one will not realize the happiness of Krishna consciousness. One will not experience it. And therefore, when they hear such statements from Krishna or the Spirit or Srila Prabhupada or devotees who are repeating it, although they've been engaged in Krishna consciousness maybe for some time, but because they're not applying themselves properly, they start thinking that this is not true. This is false, and specifically, in other words, they're not experiencing the happiness of Krishna consciousness. So when Krishna says, "Oh, it's a place of misery, it's a place of suffering," they become mad about it. It's like one devotee was saying, within India, all the boys are stressed at this point. Don't be, most of the boys, don't be licentious, don't be sensual, control your senses. You can't just, run around and, uncontrolled senses, specifically in relation to brahmacharya. But if you're not given a process by which you're experiencing that happiness, it's just considered to be like a torture. It's just been considered to be torture. I'm telling you, if I tell you, in other words, there has to be a replacement for what people are used to. I can't just tell you, okay, stop eating, Jamal, just stop eating, it's Maya. But we give you prasadam, by which you purify your senses. So, yeah.
I really want to understand this point, and I know I'm being really slow, but it seems like that's proving the point. If they don't even get happiness in devotional service, then it seems to make Krishna's point.
That there's misery in this world? Well, yeah.
They want to enjoy it materially.
Yeah.
Still have hopes for that.
Yeah. Yeah, like they say that, Krishna, they say that Krishna, he created this world, and he told us you got to control your senses, you got to follow these four regulative principles, but it's just impossible. That's what they're thinking. It's impossible. The process of Krishna consciousness doesn't work. It doesn't actually provide the happiness needed to control one's senses. So it's just almost like Krishna's trying to punish us. Oh, just control your senses, but not giving us the means to do it. But it's illusion, they're in Maya, obviously. So they think, well, let's just go out and enjoy our senses, because that's where it's really at. Yeah, they have the hope to enjoy their senses. Yeah, they get something. They get some type of, rather than being tortured by Krishna saying, follow these principles, but actually it's a strained conception people have. Like Krishna's some, tyrant or something, giving some impossible instructions. It's very possible to experience the happiness. So yeah, if one applies themselves, they will experience the happiness of Krishna consciousness without a doubt. And because they're experiencing that happiness, they won't have such weird conceptions that Krishna's some tyrant in the sky and he's trying to just punish people, making them follow impossible instructions. Just like Bhajanarayan Swami was saying, he was at a Catholic school, university, or wherever it was, elementary, high school. Yeah, high school. And the nun raised her hand in the back and she said, tell us about the mortifications of the flesh. Right? And what was she referring to? Yeah, she's referring to the four regulative principles. So, yes, Krishna says it's a place of suffering. Yes, that's true. But it's not that Krishna doesn't give us a process in which we can elevate ourselves beyond it. He does, and that's given within srimadbhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and by Lord Chaitanya, of course, chanting the holy names, the main process. And then Prabhupada quotes another shloka in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, text 6. Nadtad basad yate suryo na shashanko na pavaka idgatva na nivartante taddama paramamama. That supreme abode of mine is not illumined by the sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. But for pastimes there is, right? Sun and moon and all these for pastimes. But
Simultaneously, daytime and nighttime in the spiritual world.
Yeah.
Same time.
Different seasons too, I heard. Different seasons. So.
Sometimes all of them undid.
Yeah, so many wonderful things. So, and then in the purport, Prabhupada talks about the living entity in the dark material world, but as soon as he reaches the spiritual sky by cutting through the false perverted tree of this material world, he becomes liberated. Then there's no chance of his coming back here. And then Prabhupada says, which I underline, but I didn't underline, but one should be captivated by this information. One should be captivated by this information. One should be captivated by this information. So that's the idea. We have to become captivated by the information in the Bhagavad Gita, by the information in the Srimad Bhagavatam. We have to become captivated by Krishna consciousness. It means we have to be attracted to it. We should be attracted to it. And if we are attracted to it, then we may have not reached the ultimate goal of life, but we're making progress because at least we're attracted to it. Some people aren't attracted to it at all, unfortunately. So if we're captivated to some degree, we want to become completely captivated. So like there's different degrees, right? There's different degrees. There's different degrees of Krishna consciousness. There's different degrees of thinking of Krishna, right? So we don't want to just become partially captivated by Krishna consciousness or the information. We become fully captivated. And then he says, he should desire to transfer himself to that eternal world and extricate himself from this false reflection of reality. For one who is too much attached to this material world, it is very difficult to cut that attachment, but if one takes to Krishna consciousness, there is a chance of gradually becoming detached. And then I was talking to this fellow recently, and new guy, and then we were talking about enlightenment and spiritualization, all these. And I was saying, which is found within our literature, that just as when the sun rises, everything gradually becomes clear to us. It becomes clear. So similarly, over time, with our advancement, everything becomes clear. Who we are, who is Krishna, what is this world, what is the goal of life, it becomes clear. And in the meantime, when things may not be clear all the time, or some things just may not be clear at all, the idea is to associate with devotees who do see things clearly, or at least more than us. And that is always that is always a nice idea. That is always a recommended idea to see. Am I seeing things clearly here? Like sometimes devotees may get in little, I don't know, tiffs, or we call it tiffs. Tiffs, yeah. Tiff. Tiffs, tuffle, all type, little trifles, little arguments, miscommunications, all these different things. So yeah, it's good to say, you know what, am I seeing clearly here, or is it just my, whatever, my false ego, or my whatever, I'm projecting something, am I seeing clear here? And then someone could, if we ask somebody and they say, you know what, you're not seeing so clear, I think, like Mukunda Charna Prabhu, don't mind, but he wrote an offering for SanDiego Temple for Vyasa Puja, and yes, you are very clever with words, and he's like a pun man, like a pundit, Anyways, up at the farm, Damodar, also at the farm, Damodar Prabhu, he's also really into puns. So Krishna, put these two together. They're just pun all the time, all day. Not all day, but they're also working, but on their free time they're punning. But so you wrote this offering, and then you sent it to your spiritual master, and you said, "What do you think about it?" And then Maharaj, I don't know, I can't exactly repeat because it was quite. Yeah, he said, yeah, you should, rewrite it. So, in other words, if Mukunda wants to share later with us what exactly he said, but he said you should rewrite it. So that was good that Mukunda did that. It's okay. Okay. So it's good that he did that, Mukunda, just to check, to double check, to see if what he was doing was correct. Because, it would have been a lot worse if it, maybe it was published and then, his guru saw it and he wasn't happy. So if you check, and then you know for sure whether, you please your spiritual master. That's the whole point of spiritual life, to please the spiritual master. Like we sing every morning, right? Yasya prasada, bhagavat prasada, yasya. By pleasing the spiritual master, one makes advancement. Without pleasing the spiritual master, one makes no advancement. So I meditate on my spiritual master at least 3 times a day. That's what. So we sing that every morning. So yeah, to get out of this material world, it's not exactly easy. It's called Durga for a reason. Durga means difficult. It's not easy to go. It means like a fort. So it's a very secure prison. Actually, it's the most secure prison. I mean, these guys get out of prison sometimes. Yeah, this is like really good. Sometimes these guys get out of jail somehow. I don't know, they dig a tunnel or whatever they do, bribe people. But when we're getting out of this material world, we can't. There's no tunnel to dig. There's no one to bribe. It's just like we have to get out somehow or other by the mercy of Krishna, by the mercy of our spiritual master and the devotees. But there's no other way to really, no escaping, no tricks. So yeah, it may be difficult to get out of this world, to extricate ourselves, as Prabhupada's talking about, to go to the spiritual world. And then Prabhupada said, he gives some advice here. One has to associate himself with devotees, those who are in Krishna consciousness. One should search out a society dedicated to Krishna consciousness and learn how to discharge devotional service. In this way, he can cut off his attachment to the material world. And there's a really wonderful verse in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam. I think it's in the Uddhava Gita, but it says that, I don't know, maybe Dravida Prabhu remember this one or somebody else remember this one. But it says that, in essence, it says that by associating with devotees and talking about Krishna, Krishna Katha, and by developing friendship with devotees, it says that one can conquer or overcome desires for sense gratification, which is the problem. That is the problem. Other desires that are material, and specifically desires that have nothing to do with Krishna. That's the problem. So those are overcome by associating with devotees and developing friendship with the devotees, because the happiness derived. And of course in the Bhagavad Gita, right, there's that famous shloka, Matchita Madgata Prana Bodhyantas Parasparam Katyantas Tamam Nityam Tushanti Charamantat. So the devotees are always getting together and talking about me, Krishna is saying, enlightening each other about me, and in this way they're feeling happiness, they're feeling joy. And then Prabhupada says, one cannot become detached from the attraction of the material world simply by dressing himself in saffron cloth. Oh, man.
Changed my mind.
It's just not so easy. It's not so easy as you just change the cloth. Anyways, we have different systems. Yeah, that's easy, but changing the consciousness. And there's different systems that, temples have developed over the years, and how to give brahmachari saffron cloth and this and that, and different ways of educating brahmacharis. But anyways, when I joined here, this temple, Tirthamaj and Tota Gopinath and Giraj and all these devotees were there, and they were, I was in the temple and I was wearing white, and they're encouraging me, oh, you should put on saffron, and be good for you, this and that. And then one morning, I woke up and I didn't have any clean dhotis. I didn't have any clean white dhotis or, clean. And then I was kind of asking, I said, oh, hey, I got some clean white dhotis. And they just told me, well, you put on saffron, So I did that. That was my initiation. I put on saffron, and I put on, saffron kurta. And I come downstairs, and then, it's for Mangalarti. And Bhajanarayan Swami's there, and he sees me, and he goes, oh, nice, it looks good. So, but after that, I remember that day. I mean, after that, it's not that, I immediately become detached or something. Not so easy. That was easy to put on the saffron. I mean, some people don't get that, but that was easy to do that, but to become detached, it's more difficult. But then he said, therefore one should take very seriously to that devotional service described in the 12th chapter is the only way to get out of this false representation of the real tree. So the idea is that, just by changing one's location or one's cloth or whatever. It won't. It may help, but it's not that simple. So one has to change their consciousness. And yeah, practically, I mean, it's quite a journey to change one's consciousness. It takes some time. It takes a lot of time, a lot of the time, and it takes a lot of effort to change one's consciousness. And therefore, here Dhruva Maharaj says he has a determination. And so the opposite of determination, and determination, you could say, yeah, is in Dhruva Maharaj's case, obviously it's transcendental, but I guess maybe ordinary determination is, you could say, quality of sattva gun, maybe rajagun. Determination, different modes, but the opposite of determination is this laziness or sloth or inactivity, which is not Krishna conscious at all. And practically this tamagun, it's like what it means like lack of inspiration. It's a basic, you'd say, they're just inspired to, not do much. And then so therefore Prabhupada said, "Oh, I was never a lazy fellow," as the Prabhupada said. He said, "I was never a lazy fellow." And he said that, and I was thinking, maybe Prabhupada was just joking or something, but he said he was the goalie because he used to play soccer when he was a boy. So he was the goalie, and he said, "Oh, I was the goalie because I didn't have to run around." So, but say lazy intelligent. So yeah, that's the idea that the lower modes of material nature, they actually, it means that a person's not acting with intelligence. It means they are acting foolishly. And so yeah, therefore a devotee, they try to overcome this, whatever it is, lazy or sloth, inactivity, or the lower modes of material nature, because actually they're not at all conducive to Krishna consciousness, these lower modes of material nature. So yeah, Dhruva Maharaj, he's in the process of going back to Godhead. It was a very inspiring chapter within the Srimad Bhagavatam. Like Rajanananda Prabhu said, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he especially liked this, appreciated, relished this pastime of Dhruva Maharaj. And yeah, we're supposed to, this is supposed to be our source of inspiration. We're supposed to be captivated by such topics. And practically speaking, we could become captivated. We could become captivated by such topics by serving a person who is captivated by such topics. I mean, serving a pure devotee, serving devotees. By service to the devotees, we get what they have. And therefore, in the Bhagavatam, chapter 1, text 2, Canto 1, chapter 2, text 16, Shu Shoshodadanasya Vasudeva Taruchi Syan Mahatseva Punya Tirtana Shevana. So it says, by serving the great souls who are free from vice, great service is done, and one gains a taste, one gains an attraction for the messages of Krishna. Vasudeva. So if we serve, and then in the purport, Prabhupada says, by serving a particular person, you get the qualities of that person. It rubs off. In that case, also, like we have Narada Muni. There's a Narada Muni. It's a young boy who was serving the Bhaktivedantas. Perfect example. So by serving Prabhupada and the devotees, and in the mission, then we will get that taste, and we'll actually become captivated. Because actually, everybody's captivated by something. So we want to become captivated by Krishna. So yeah, does anyone have any? Yes. Questions? Comments?
Thank you for bringing up some nice points. Nice class. I I'm going to mention this because it also relates with it's easy to change the cloth, but not so easy to completely change, become detached, not desiring material sense gratification. That dayams duvam tasya shastri sandyam, it doesn't, you said it means, and we should offer respects at least 3 times a day. The dayams means we should meditate on the spiritual master. We should always be thinking of him. And then Trisandyam, we should offer our respects at least 3 times a day. So there's definitely a difference between just, okay, I'll remember him when I'm chanting Gayatri. And it relates to the point that the Christians say, all I have to do is surrender to the Lord, and I've done my part. But in Krishna consciousness, we see we continually have to make the choice. I want to serve Krishna and not serve Maya. So
yeah, we should definitely always be thinking. Prabhupada said he never felt himself alone. He always felt the presence of his spiritual master. Very wonderful thing to strive for, to always feel the presence. I mean, because sometimes devotees may feel the presence of their spiritual master sometimes, and it's quite a, you could say, amazing experience. But if you feel the presence all the time, really, and then Prabhupada said in the or Borijan Prabhu writes in his book. What's that book called? No, it's his book about Prabhupada. My glorious master. So there's some question. I think they asked Prabhupada, what if one thinks of the spiritual master instead of Krishna? Do they get the same result? And Prabhupada said, yeah, they get at the time of death. Prabhupada said, yeah, they get the same result. So
the verse you're looking for. You're right, I didn't know it, I didn't recognize it. But it's not the Uddhava Gita, it's the Yogendras.
Okay.
Yeah. 11.3.30 Padaspadanu katanam pavanam bhagavad yasha mito ratir mitas tushtir nivritir mita atmana. One should learn how to associate with the devotees of the Lord by gathering with them to chant the glories of the Lord. This process is most purifying. As devotees thus develop their loving friendship, they feel mutual happiness and satisfaction, and by thus encouraging one another, they are able to give up material sense gratification, which is the cause of all suffering. 11.3.30. And the next verse is also, they go together. Smadantik smadantyascha mito gaugaharam harim bhaktya sanjatiya bhaktya. That's a famous line. Bimbrat utpalikam tanum. The devotees of the Lord constantly discuss the glories of the Lord among themselves. Thus they constantly remember him and remind one another of his qualities and pastimes. In this way, by their devotion to the principles of bhakti yoga, the devotees please the Lord, who takes away from them everything inauspicious. By being purified of all impediments, they awaken pure love of God, and thus, even within this world, their spiritualized bodies exhibit symptoms of transcendental ecstasy.
Sounds like a pretty good video.
That's what this society is all about. Hare Krishna. But that bhaktya sanjaya bhaktya is often quoted that only bhakti produces bhakti. Mm-hmm. Sadhana bhakti produces bhava bhakti. That's what that line means. 11.3.30.
Nice, great verses.
I've got a question on. So you were speaking earlier. You had mentioned clarity in devotees. Finding clarity, devotees may get into little scuffles or things like that, and you said
sometimes it happens.
Yeah. Are you seeing clearly? And you had said sometimes we can project certain things. And it was reminding me yesterday of what Rajendranath Prabhu was saying about projection. If we're seeing like, faults in somebody, or specifically what he said was a devotee, it's like a mirror, seeing where influencing our own. So kind of tying that into the changing of consciousness when we're endeavoring it in the process. Sometimes we can see that a devotee may develop quite an averse attitude or a little kind of extreme attitude towards people in the material world and their behaviors. They can Yeah. Do you know what I mean by that?
Calm demons and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Well,
Aversion.
yeah, aversion basically, but it can be a little bit much sometimes.
Overboard.
So, yeah.
Hateful.
Yeah. So, are these? Is that also reflecting us, the people in the material world, if we're seeing these qualities in them? Are we, and we're very much averse to it? Is that also, could that also be a projection or a reflection, or is it just?
I mean, sometimes
the way
people are attracted by it. Actually, they're attracted by material sense gratification, the material world, and then they just like, criticize it, and but they're like attracted to it. So yeah, that's there. Yeah, that's there. There's attachment and aversion. So I mean, whatever. Sometimes brahmacharis, the evils of women, and they're just railing against it, and then they're the first ones to get married. So it was just aversion. It was just, and of course there's that case where Prabhupada he was at a Kmart manager sent a letter to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada responded. This is in the Science of Civilization. And he wrote this long letter because she thought the disciples were a little too harsh, a little bit too heavy, kind of negative. And then Prabhupada wrote this whole letter, and he said that in the beginning, he said so many things, but pretty much Prabhupada is saying to excuse them, and in the beginning it may seem, like in the beginning of Krishna consciousness, it may seem like a little harsh, a little heavy, a little imbalanced, negative, and just give them some time to mature. And then he said sometimes devotees do things like that to kind of protect themselves. They protect themselves. So, and then Prabhupada mentioned that it's not so easy to get out of Maya. So, they're just struggling to, maintain their Krishna consciousness, so they act in certain ways. But yeah, in relation to maybe a more practical thing, is that in relation to ourselves and dealing with each other and this and that, I mean, we have to come to the point where we like each other. We have to come to the point where we have affection for each other, like real, care for each other. And in other words, it has to become like an unconditional. The relationship have to become unconditional. So just like a mother and a daughter or son or something, mother and their child, it's an unconditional relationship. A good mother, it's an unconditional relationship. So, I mean, people do so many things. I mean, there was this, Tirtha Maharaj was telling me there was this devotee, and he was just absolute, so many ways, just a rascal, doing so many stupid things, going in and out of jail, not being very respectful to his mother, and so on, so on, so on. But the mother was always just very affectionate towards him, helping him, sending him money, so many different things. She never gave up on the relationship. So, nowadays there's a tendency. Actually, it turned out quite well. He got initiated, and yeah. Anyways, it's not so bad. So all of her prayers and affection did something. Like there's this term, apparently, we're talking about the other day. It's called ghosting. The term ghosting is that somebody is in a relationship, usually man and woman relationship, whatever, girlfriend, boyfriend, married, and they're in the relationship, and when one partner, the woman leaves, and the man leaves and he just takes off, and he doesn't, she tries to call him, it's a serious relationship, but then he just takes off. She tries to call him, she tries to text him, tries to email, try to find out where, and he's just gone, like nowhere to be seen. It's called ghosting. Just take off. Apparently, what was that? Ghostbust? Yeah. So, apparently, I don't know, I heard a true story where a guy did that, and he was gone for like 10 years, literally. And then, and then the woman with the child was living with his mother for 10 years, and then the guy just came back. And she accepted him. Like, unbelievable. But yeah, we don't want to do that in our relationships, ghost, do a ghost on, we don't want to ghost people. I don't know if that's what it's called, ghost. But it means that it's like, okay, you offended me, you made me angry, we fought, I don't like you, I don't, just cut each other off. So we don't want to do that, because that's not very nice. We want to, develop the relationships. All right. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Prabhupada ki jai.